Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel again. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe it and press the bell icon so that you get notifications for all the new videos which I upload. This video is all about the opposite feature for the previous video which I uploaded it, that is the pivoting feature. But in this case, we are going to discuss the opposite of pivoting, that is unpivoting. So what is unpivoting and how we use it? That's what we are going to discuss within this. Unpivoting is actually the reversal of the pivoting feature. But do we say exactly? Not exactly, right? So there is a little bit of a difference, though we definitely convert the columns back into rows, but then we definitely lose the data also that has been transformed, and we'll see it in example. This is the same example that I have put or shown within my last video, where we had some data of cloud providers and the year and collections, and we pivoted it. We used the sum feature to actually use the collections as a sum of multiple years for a particular provider, and then we get two rows out of that. Now, this is typically the pivoting which I demonstrated in my last video. If you have not seen that, I'll put the link for my last video also within the description of this particular video. But what happens when you unpivot it? When you unpivot it, it technically brings in now, it does the similar thing. If you see, it brings in the data similar to the old table structure, but of course we have lost some data. Why? Because if you see, the unpivoting is done from the data that is actually pivoted and summed together. So you actually lose access to the rows that was there, which is actually the base table from where the pivoting was done. So, but yes, even if we lose the actual rows, if you have still data in this format and you want to convert back it into rows, like from columns to rows, so here the columns were Azure and AWS, you want to convert it back into rows, so you would get two rows for each, Azure for 2015 and 2016, and similarly for AWS 2015 and 2016. So that's why you'll get four rows. So yes, we could say unpivoting is an opposite of pivoting with certain caveats, because the actual data, if you have used it in the form of a summing or averaging or anything, you would lose those potential rows. So that's all about unpivoting, much of a theory now. Let's go back and see how practically we can do that. So let's see how we can practically implement the unpivoting using the same example as we did in the last video. So let's say I have a table which is cloud sales that we created, and I just run that. So this was all the rows that were available to us. If you don't have the script to this script is available in the description to my last video also. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll actually try to create a temporary table by firstly pivoting it so that we have a pivoted data, and then we'll try to unpivot it and see how it works. So now this has 8 rows. So if I'm going to pivot that out, so I'll say select star into, and then I'll say cloud, let's say I'll create another temporary table, cloud saved sales pivot, and then from we say cloud sales, that's the table name, and pivot, you want to sum that, you want to sum the collection, and then for what you want for cloud provider, that's what you want to pivot in, and then the values are AWS and Azure as pivot table, let's say. Now this query would not only pivot the data, but rather put that data set into a temporary table called as cloud sales pivot. So if I run this, so this is gonna do that, and I'm just gonna see it cloud sales pivot. So if you run this, select star, this would show you the pivot, which is exactly the similar thing like that I demonstrated in the last video. Now we have the pivoted data and we want to unpivot it. So that's where we want to unpivot it, and let's see how we could do that. So what I'm gonna do over here is So because if you see that, let's copy this query and see both of them as side by side. Now if you run this, so this is where your actual data was there, means the unpivoted data, like the actual data structure that you want to represent. You want to represent cloud provider, year, and collection. So what I'm gonna say over here is select, I would say cloud provider, comma year, comma collection. That's what I need from, and the table which I've already created is cloud sales pivot. That's the pivoted data, which means this particular data. That's only 2 records. And then what we want to use is unpivot function. So we say we want to do the unpivot based upon collection, and then what I want to do is I want to do that for cloud provider, the values which I want to convert it into rows in AWS, Azure, and then finally as unpivot table. Now here I'm not doing any kind of a sum or anything because I have 2 rows for AWS 2015 and AWS and Azure, and 2015 for this. So I just want those values to be unpivoted in the same way. So you're not performing any kind of a grouping expression. So if I run this and see the values, okay, so you get the unpivoted data, but you definitely lost the original data. The original data is something like this, which is more likely 8 rows, but over here, because when you did the pivoting, you did the pivoting for this 8 rows that were converted into 2 rows, and then from 2 rows you are converting it back. So definitely unpivoting is a kind of going back to the original state, but with certain caveats where you lose the underlying table if you have used some kind of a group by functions. I hope guys, this video is going to help you out to completely understand how you could use pivot as well as unpivot function within SQL Server. So stay tuned. I'll be coming back with more videos. Thank you and have a good one.